what's up, everybody? It's good to see you. Hi! Everybody hanging out and waiting for us. Thank you for doing so. It was a joy to always have you guys here. What's up? We'll start seeing, yes, gotcha, I'm here. Welcome, welcome. Alright, so you'll be noticing today that on my right is a different looking Mr. DePlotter. This is Mr. Bob Roberts. He is our lead designer. Is that really the best way to describe you?
I am currently the design director, not that probably means much to these folks. It doesn't. It's basically the same job.
I wrote down, like, remember design director, and in the moment I was like, oh shit. So anyway, hey, what's up, everybody? You're not Mike. It's true.
It's true.
He's different than Mike.
Whole nother person.
Whole other person. But he's basically one of, oh, you're now Bob Ross. That's chat.
Close.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. So anyway, today, if you guys remember what came out yesterday, was a Predator video from IGN Firsts. And we wanted to be able to walk through it with all y'all in kind of a similar way to how we walked through the previous IGN First video, where you guys were able to choose what segments you wanted us to talk about. So we're going to do a magic little flip over so you guys can kind of see what that looks like. Up above me, you can see basically our various bits of the Predator tree. So this is what one of the trees will look like when you're playing Shadow of War and upgrading your Talion. Each one of the things that we have up there coincides with a set of names in different bits to it. The major thing we want to walk through is tell you about the other augments to the abilities that we didn't really have IGN show you yesterday. We want to give you guys a little bit of extra stuff. And yeah, I'm stoked about it. What about you?
Yeah, it's going to be fun.
It's going to be very fun. So right now, Andy, who is our amazing mix master at the moment, is filling out the votes so that you guys can start choosing. And you go ahead and hit go for the voting. Boom. So votes and polls are open, so go ahead and start voting if you guys want to check out the agility stuff, if you want to look at the brutalize. I keep looking at the camera to remember everything. Spectre just above my head. You got poison, you have chain, you have various options that you can try doing. Also remember, it is the exclamation point vote and then the object. So for those of you who are jumping in immediately with a chain or agility, we don't count those ones. Exclamation point is a hard word to say today. Exclamation point and then chain or poison or whatnot. And we see the votes going through. Thank you, everybody. So at the moment, Spectre is currently the top vote. I love how you guys always have invalid vote text in there. It will count votes that aren't like vote something. Or if someone says vote tacos, which we see vote tacos from Lego Warrior right now, vote tacos is counted. It just doesn't turn into anything specifically. So yeah. How are you doing, by the way, Bob?
I'm doing good.
Yeah, we had our internet stuff today.
Oh man, that's terrifying.
Oh, it's we had an internet disappear today, and it was just like, well, I wonder if I'm going to stream today with Bob, but we'll find out, I guess. Aslar the Karagorgi really likes your beard. That is the most chat name I've seen for this group. Aslar the Karagorgi. Well done.
That's nice.
I love it. All right, let's give one more refresh to see what people have. Spectre. Okay, so you guys want to talk about Spectre. Let's close out the vote and let's start talking about Spectre. So, for those of you who want to know a little bit more about Spectre, do you want to fill them in specifically on the basis of how it works?
All right, so normally you can just run around in stealth and you hit the Y button on the Xbox controller or the triangle on the PlayStation controller, and you get the attract, right? You're hiding around a corner, you attract the guy over. So that's kind of just a default ability. The Deadly Spectre skill gives you the ability to hold that button down. You'll see the little bar fill on the guy, and which maybe wasn't even in the IGN video. Actually, we've added that little bit of UI feedback since we captured that footage. But
that's awesome.
So you hold the button down, you see the bar fill up, and if you stay on him long enough, then it'll track him over just like a normal attract, except that you can move on, and once he arrives, the Celebrimbor will just pop out and take him out for you.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, so in general, this would be a situation where if I wanted to attract an orc and I brought them over, I would have to normally wait for them. But now is an ability that I can attract them over and then just carry on.
Keep moving. Yeah.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
So kind of to almost be faster in stealth.
Yeah, absolutely. And it lets you kind of set up some chains too of like, you can kind of do buddy takedowns with yourself. So time that thing and pounce on a guy.
Oh man, Celebrimbor and Talion just out for a picnic and double takedown.
Exactly.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, so let's begin to jump a little bit into it. One of the abilities, if I can make sure I get the name perfectly correct, was Terrifying Presence. It's one of the augments that we actually saw in the IGN video. And this particular one is the one that he does a brutalize on top of it.
Right. So by default, it's going to do a normal stealth kill on the guy that comes over. So you can upgrade it to do the other sort of forms of stealth attack that Talion can do normally. So, so the Brutalize is that upgraded stealth attack that you can stab the guy over and over and over and get a few other benefits that we'll probably talk about when we dig into Brutalize a bit more. But basically just makes Celebrimbor do that sort of super powered, terrifying attack when he wanders over.
So, and that's like the hit. So if you wanted to increase your hit streak, for example.
Right. The hit streak and might build up there, and then and it also kind of does this sort of fear bomb of anybody else who saw that terrifying shit go down will take off and start running. So yeah.
Perfect. All right. So with that, there's actually one of the first augments that we didn't show in IGN yesterday, which was the spirit drain of the Spectre to go ahead and do. So what's the spirit drain? How is it a little different?
So yeah, so similarly, it's another stealth move Talion can do on his own as well, where you sneak up behind a guy and you drain him. In this game, the drain is actually where you get your health back. It's a little different from last time. This time, draining an orc, draining a little rat, whatever. You get a little health back from that.
Draining a rat?
Yeah. You're kind of a monster. So. So you can set it up to do that stealth move when the guy comes over as well, which Drain's got its own set of augments in the skill tree elsewhere. So that means depending on how you spec out Drain, will also change how Celebrimbor acts and what you get from his attack in the Deadly Spectre move too.
Okay, so depending on what you mentioned, so let's say Drain had an augment that you mentioned that you can get your health back with Drain. So this would be an opportunity to almost have like a delayed health return.
Right.
That's pretty cool. You mentioned the draining the rat kind of thing. So it's just basically there's a little mouse around there and you're like, my health's low, there's no Uruk nearby. Whoop.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I mean last time, we had the flowers you'd go down and take and get health back, and this time it's just it's not just vegetative living things.
We can take out more That's really funny, I love that. Okay, so you have the little kind of version of it. So we talked a little bit about this earlier to kind of give an explanation of how one could use Spectre in perhaps a less obvious way, which was if Celebrimbor and Talion are looking at a war chief who can be hurt by some form of stealth, you can do this sort of draw him over and then leave Celebrimbor to do a stealth hit. Now, the thing is normally when you do a stealth hit, you will have the moment where now they see you, you take a blow off of health. But now it's a wraith. They don't see anything, so you can kind of kite them around doing that over and over.
Yeah, so as long as you're being really careful about all the other enemies in the area that might be able to spot you as you sneak around, you could kind of kite them around, or like I said, do that buddy stealth kill where you drag him over and then sneak around behind him and get the sort of double stealth takedown back and forth with him.
Oh, that's awesome. Would there be so with the spirit drain kind of thing, could you time it in a way where you would actually be able to dominate that war chief?
That's interesting. When the captains and war chiefs and guys get broken, and so you can actually dominate them, Talion's got to actually get in there and do that himself, because you go into that whole loop of you got the guy down and you're deciding what to do with him and all that UI, which would be a little too hard to manage two of those going on at the same time.
Shouting from Calion.
So, yeah.
Recruit him! What? Shame? Okay. That would be ridiculous. Okay. So with that, let's feel free to open up with some questions if you guys have questions about Spectre specifically. Being that we have a bunch more segments this time, I guess this will kind of happen a little bit faster, but I saw a question earlier that I missed, I'm sorry, because most questions are towards the end. But we have a question from JBJ Blaze. What you guys think about the mass brand ability and kind of like, that was from the DLC, I believe.
Right, yeah, the upgrade where Celebrimbor would do the big AoE brand.
Right.
Yeah, we've got a few different ways to approach that level of power if you spec out right, but we're not actually doing that exact skill necessarily this time around.
Okay. So could the Deadly Spectre be used to insta-kill a captain vulnerable to stealth from Suspect Rogue?
Absolutely, yeah. And we've got a lot of different cool sandbox dynamics that can happen with these guys. So yeah, it'll trigger anything that a stealth attack would otherwise have comboed with. So.
Okay, well, that's awesome. So we got one from Centaur Owens. Will Uruks be alarmed if the Spectre drains an Uruk but not see Talion? So I think I guess they're kind of asking about if you weren't doing Brutalize, is that like
it's still a stealth kill. They'll still get so if you have a group of guys and you get one of them to come over and do the normal stealth kill, the guys who are there watching will still get alarmed. Like they'll still go, "What the hell is going on here?" and they'll start looking around. They'll get suspicious. They'll start searching for you. So it gets tougher and tougher to maintain your stealth if you're trying to chain a lot of it together, but it'll still be pretty powerful.
Oh, that's awesome. Let's see. We had, can you do the Spectre takeout from above and behind a wall?
So one nice thing about Celebrimbor being sort of non-corporeal is that he can sort of leap through the walls a bit. So if you're behind a low wall there and you get a guy over, once he gets close enough, he doesn't have to run around the edge of the wall and get him. He can just kind of pop through the wall and take a guy out like that.
We see it in the IGN video where he kind of just flies into him.
Up through, yeah.
So it looked like that orc hadn't even yet become aware of the potential.
Right, yeah. He was still on his way over, but he got close enough that Celebrimbor just went for it.
So he actually does the ability closer than what Talion would be able to do the stealth kill.
Right.
Oh, that's awesome. Very cool. I actually did not know that one. So I'm right now, wow. Okay. We have a question from Epic Raccoon 2915. So can Cursed Uryx negate this effect?
No, the curse doesn't actually impact the Deadly Spectre ability at all.
There you go. Yeah, so it's not good. And with that, I think we should start the next vote again as we kind of go through this. I'm going to grab one more question real quick while we're prepping the vote. Can you chain strike with Deadly Spectre? Question from GK520.
Can you chain the Deadly Spectre?
Right, so chain strike it. So I guess, yeah, can you chain it?
No, the chain that we showed off in the video is a different skill that has to start from Talion beginning the chain. So once Celebrimbor takes off in the Deadly Spectre, you could be off somewhere else looking at something else, and we don't want to rip your attention away necessarily at that point. So we keep the chain coming straight out of Talion.
Perfect. Thank you. Oh, there you go. So I saw a couple of you start the voting before we upped it. Exclamation point, vote, and then chain, or then brutalize, or whatever you guys are going to vote for. So if you had tried voting prior to opening the poll, vote again. We'll count you that time. If you tried voting without exclamation point, vote, and then the word, try again. 1-1 Dr. Jekyll, vote Tom Bombadil. Is it Bombadil? Bombadil. Yeah, I remember Tom Bombadil. Is that how you spell Bombadil?
Not even close.
Close, you tried. There you go.
You guys should just make one voting option always Aslar, I think.
Always Aslar? Yeah, we see Aslar popping up a lot with that. Last I checked, I saw a chain look like it was the winning one. I'll let you guys know again. Exclamation part, Poisson. Almost. Man, you're making me speak weird. Exclamation point, vote poison. There you go. There we go. We got it. Chain is winning right now. I think let's do one more refresh, see how that's changed. Nope, chain is the one. So let's do chain. We'll talk about that. Close on the poll. And we're going to talk a little bit about perfect timing, really. Yeah. Since we just had the question about the linking it together. So Wraith Chain. Put that up behind. It's already behind me. Perfect. Wraith Chain, as you can see, you got two double Celebrimbors behind us right now. And so what's Wraith Chain? Yeah,
so you'll go up behind a guy with Talion, do a normal stealth kill. Right. If you have this skill unlocked, you'll see another prompt appear over the next enemy that you're kind of looking at with the camera. So you can aim around, pick the next target, hit the button again. Celebrimbor will come out, get that guy. From there, aim around again, find another target, and keep that chain going as long as you have focus. So the focus it's the sort of last game, it was only really used for slow-mo and range mode.
Right.
But this time it's a resource that we're using for some of these other moves where Celebrimbor slows down time and does stuff super fast like this.
Oh, that's awesome.
So that means that if you, by default with the sort of starting amount of focus, you can get one guy or maybe two. The typical sort of fork in the road here is, do you want to maximize how much focus you have and the other elements that feed into your build and start putting together crazy long chains at the expense of other kinds of power, or not worry as much about super high focus and focus on other kinds of ways of growing? So if you really want to optimize it, you can get a lot of these chains linked together through a big group of guys.
Oh, that's awesome. So speaking of focus, one of the first things that you get with the Wraith Chain is the Shadow Blade, which is the ability to hit that first person at 0 focus cost.
Right.
So that would be an example of trying to aim your build in the direction of, I want to just get this massive chain.
Right. Or to get like that extra bit of chain without having to invest as much in max focus too. So
if there's some other ability or something that you wanted to focus on.
Yes, exactly. It's confusing.
Terribly. And then you can set it up and you can be like, all right, so I'm going to put a skill point in this one and then have this opportunity.
Right.
Cool. And then interesting part of the Wraith chain, there is an ability in there known as Monster Hunter, which is, if you want to fill in specifically what it is.
So it's not as directly tied to the chaining so much as the stealth kills in general, but it lets you actually start doing stealth attacks on beasts. So you can sneak up behind a Caragor or a Graug and actually get a big hit in. So the Caragors will just die at that point. Graugs are a little tougher, so do a big chunk of damage and start working him down towards breaking him so you can mount him. But
that's a good way to put that.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, we're in the situation where, like, coming up with an idea of, if I wanted to use the Monster Hunter, then I would be able to take out a Graug, start the branding process. So if I was more of a Talion that focused on riding creatures, that would be kind of one of the skills that maybe I'd want to invest in.
Totally.
Okay. And I guess so, versus if I wanted to focus on the focus one, so then it becomes that level of not needing to worry too much about either putting stuff in focus or getting that extra chain.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. So I'd actually seen a line in here that was a little bit about how people, I just saw a note that our mics sound a little low, so I'm going to pop them up a little bit, just in case. How I saw some people talking about that Wraith chain looks like it could be something that is more just crazy powered than what anything we saw from Shadow of Mordor, really. So what kind of, like, things are we going to be fighting against where Wraith chain's really going to be useful, otherwise we would struggle with?
Yeah, so, I mean, really high level, like, the thing we did in Shadow was a little bit more, I think a common criticism we got was, by the end of the game, you're kind of crazy overpowered.
Yeah.
And so we came into this designing the skill tree and trying to think of all the cool ways we can expand and all these new abilities that every time you come up with an awesome new ability, it's like just making him more and more powerful.
Right.
At the same time, we're putting a lot more enemies in the game. You got a lot more to contend with, and we have a lot tougher captains and a lot tougher sort of larger group fights and things like that. So it ends up at a place where even though your abilities like this one are getting more powerful than anything you did in Shadow stealth-wise, the first Shadow stealth-wise, you actually still end up really needing all that extra power to even tread water with the power you had in the first game. So it's a higher challenge, but more power in your toolbox as well. So a couple of possibilities though, like first of all, captains are still going to be tough. They're still going to reject that stealth kill and sort of end your chain. Like if you're chaining through guys and you hit a captain, he's going to stop you right there and catch you and
if this was a captain that was like mortally wounded to stealth, would
you take him out with that.
Oh, okay.
It's still a stealth kill. So if you're really exploiting a vulnerability, it's gonna work great.
Right.
But if you run into a guy who's immune to it, he'll just reject you and start the fight and alert everybody to your presence.
Kick over the Celebrimbor Wraith.
Exactly.
Oh, that's hilarious.
So then the other thing you can do is sort of, if you're going to get 2 or 3 of these out before actually having to start a fight, and you see a really big group of guys, there's always that extra challenge of which special classes of guys are in the fight, even if there aren't any captains around. So you might have a couple defenders or a savage, and so you look at that group of guys and you can kind of target I'm gonna start with this savage, drop on him, chain over to the defender, and then try and chain to the other defender, and now I've at least got a group of infantry to deal with when the fight breaks out.
Oh, that's awesome. So that kind of way where there's a strategic value to being able to jump around and kind of do this.
Right.
One note that I was thinking about is in kind of like from Shadow of Mordor is Shadow Strike, which is, I would say, the closest kind of thing that one could imagine to this, almost being that you could almost like teleport and take someone out. The difference being that now Celebrimbor goes and then returns. Right. Versus it used to be Talion and Celebrimbor would move at the same time.
Right. So Shadow Strike is still there as the like you're moving entirely to the new position.
Right.
But it's a very similar concept. It is that kind of in Celebrimbor's perspective, you're going so fast these guys can't even see what's happening. Right.
Well, that's awesome. So with that, I think we should start opening up some questions and related to this. It's I'm seeing a couple questions that we can't talk about quite today. Specifically, Jake B-Man 15. But one that I saw that I thought was kind of interesting, we actually hit, which was the one about hitting the captain. So now we're looking through. can you, let's see. So we have a question, which when you're doing this sending Celebrimbor out, can you also brutalize during this stealth attack?
No, so that's one of the trade-offs, right? The brutalize is way more powerful in its own way. That because it's got that fear bomb, you're actually taking care of multiple guys at the same time with one brutalize, and that's part of where the balance becomes. The stealth chain is going to be normal stealth attacks, so you can get 3 or 4 or 5 guys if you're really pushing it. Versus the brutalize, if you're really focusing on that, you do that one super badass attack, and then 3 or 4 or 5 guys freak out and split.
Ooh, right? Oh, that's awesome. Let's see. So we have a question that this one is from Frost Alpha 550. This is actually not specifically about the Wraith chain. It's kind of about the idea of can you get every skill in every skill tree at once? And this is something that we're going to be sort of talking about today, kinda. Right.
So the way it works is the big sort of parent skills along the way. Those are all additive. You can get all of those all at the same time.
Right.
The little like child skills, the upgrades that are associated with each of those parents, you get one of those active at a time.
Right.
And that's part of our sort of tools to deal with like how many new abilities we've invented for the game without letting it blow to just absurdly overpowered territory.
Right.
And also it's
up above us.
It's a fun way to kind of design a build and let people explore different optimal, combinations of skills and abilities. Right. So Talion's kind of his own little sandbox.
His own little
larger Nemesis sandbox.
Well, it's fun. He gets to have his own sandbox now. Good for Talion.
Give him little pails and shovels.
Specifically over, I love the idea of the pail. So specifically over us, so we have this one right here, which is a skill that is the Spectre one. So you can see the parent skill is the larger skill.
Right.
And then you have that little guy up in the top right of
upgrade,
it.
yeah.
Right. And so that augment, you choose one of those per parent skill.
Right. So you can unlock all of them, and then just, whenever you want to swap around, like you unlock the parent, you've got that going. You decide which child you like most to start with, but at any point you get another skill point, unlock the other upgrade, and put your point there and swap around. And just if the captain you're hunting has a vulnerability that you think is exploited better by the other skill, and open it up and swap to the other upgrade.
Oh, there you go. That's awesome. Cool. I saw a question from Novicius, which is specifically about this one above my head directly. We're not talking about that one today. We kind of left it up there because we're giving you information, but we're also seeding some mystery. Ooh. So let's see. Looking for other questions. I'm going to take one more question, and then we'll start up the next vote. Let's see. Is there a limit, Hammerhead 45? Is there a limit to how many people you can take out in the Wraith chain?
Yeah. So it's entirely gated by how much focus you have. So that's a stat that you can build in other ways.
Right.
And so if you really emphasize it, if you go all in on that, you can build up to a pretty decent number of chains. But by default, if you haven't put anything into that, I think right now it's tuned to you get 2 additional kills. Yeah.
So on a personal note, how high have you managed to get the Wraith chain to go?
I think the most I've done in one go is 6.
6? Oh, okay.
But we're always balancing. We'll be balancing up to the end, so you never know. We might find different gear combinations or things that we weren't expecting to see happen too.
Right. Oh, I can imagine that. Let's go ahead and start that vote so people can start choosing too above us. Oh man, the mindset of doing 6 hits, because when I was doing, I would get like 3, and then I saw in the IGN video we got 4. So I was like, come on, man, what am I doing incorrectly here? But anyway, that's pretty sick. Also, with the thinking about the idea of when you're building up focus and that kind of development of like a build, that's actually something else that, depending on what people vote on, I'm hoping that we can begin to sort of talk more of the build idea. Which right now, yes, people are voting in the direction of that, which is perfect. Let me do a refresh again. So right now, poison is the most popular on the list of things that you guys are voting for. And that's actually, we have a lot to talk about with poison. So that's going to be pretty sick. Well, let's see. Venolin, hey, can you guys make an Easter egg of Aslar destroying Destroyer of Hearts? Oh, you mean like if we're dating? I mean, I guess that would one day be the most fantastic, where you have like a Valentine's card. It's just like, and it has a little gate on it. And just my gate was closed, and then you open it, it's Aslar breaking through it. It's
just make an Aslar Tinder account. Somebody tell Mark.
Someone tell Mark. There's an Aslar like Twitter account that I've chatted to every once in a while. And see, Poison's still winning. Agility is the next one underneath it. But we got poison. Seems to be the most popular one. So yeah, let's do close the poll and let's do poison, which is sweet because that was the one that I have a lot to talk about. Biggest list of things on my notes, in fact. So once we got it up on, you guys remember this part in the video, right? Where you have Italian, he's pointing at the grog, and he's like, I'm going to make it poison from afar, which is something that you can actually walk up and do that, but now you have the capability to do it from afar.
Exactly. Yeah.
So let's talk about the first augment that exists, bursting toxin.
Right. So this is a fun one where you poison the barrel, guys are going to come drink from it, they'll start getting poisoned, they'll start wandering around and, puking and doing their poisony things, right? But then when they finally keel over and die, they actually just become little live explosives that detonate and make another cloud of poison. So it becomes this kind of spreading plague that keeps detonating all over the place and catching new guys who then wander off and detonate. And so you get some crazy chains going with that. And and obviously the poison is one of those core status effects that'll start to emerge in other places in the skill tree and other places in the gear to help combo things around. So yeah,
I definitely want to be hitting that point some more. But before we jump into that one, it's contagion is one that we've seen in the actual video, which is so instead of a guy being sick, falling down, and I remember at least in the ability, it's with the balancing how often they'll explode. So depending on that, we'll see. But in the case of contagion, they don't explode. They walk over and they start whacking people.
Yeah, they just start going crazy and causing a lot of infighting. And so you're more like immediately just taking out that core group of guys right there versus letting a slow plague spread.
The slow inkling of it all. Oh, that's awesome. Okay, so if I was to be choosing between these two, since you mentioned just around there, if that was a situation where it's like there's a captain there and I want to just take out all his major guards that are there. Quick way, contagion, they all start infighting. Everybody dies. He's lost health. Good way to do. So versus if there's a captain farther away, and I wanted to see if I can say he needs poison to die or something. The bursting toxin's more likely to get to him.
Has a little more of a potential range, and it sort of depends on the layout of guys you're dealing with. And
I like to imagine it was almost like orc golfing. Close enough, but not quite there. Okay, so bursting toxin is one of the new augments in it, and then this is the part that becomes very interesting. Is let's talk about proximity trigger.
Right.
Do you want to fill in?
So the poison tendril sort of parent skill there is that ability to remotely set that trap, basically.
Right.
So this is the one upgrade to that skill that follows the remoteness of it versus the poisonness of it.
Oh, that's a good way to put it.
So in this case, that skill is if I'm not really into the poison or I'm going after guys who are all immune to poison or have hates of poison or that kind of thing, then I can focus on this thing, which instead lets me look at those like the Karagor bait, the the cages, the other things that you would normally shoot as little combat ops throughout the game using range mode, and it basically makes them into it's an attract, same kind of deal. Like normally you can look at the wall, look at one of those things, and hit that button in range mode to just cause an attract and have guys walk over to it. So it's similar to Deadly Spectre in that way, where like it overwrites that normal attract with an actual priming of the combat op, so that you end up letting the guy walk over, and then it triggers and falls on his head, or it triggers when he gets near, opens the cage, Karagor mauls him.
Oh, that's awesome. So it's kind of like, so this doesn't use elf shot, correct?
Right.
So this is one way to not need to use elf shot.
Right. Conserve ammo,
and so that's kind of the situation where you have like a captain who gets killed by a Karagor, and you mentioned that you could actually set that trap. So you set the trap, and then you could, instead of having to shoot the next thing and have it maul him, you can leave, and just listen from afar and I got him.
Exactly, and set up those combos too of, you got the guy who's close to that Karagor bait and the guy who's close to that cage, and the guy who's close to that barrel, and kind of get let me poison the barrel, wait for him to start walking over, attract these guys to these other things, and have all this chaos just kind of trip off at the same time.
So just like an immediate sudden drop.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really cool. So with that, because we talked about the augments, this will be the opportunity where, in the case of poison, there are other things besides this ability in the grog barrels that can create poison.
Right.
So something like contagion or bursting toxin, do those also go into those things?
Right, yeah, totally. So there's all the kinds of poison-related perks that can show up on gear, that kind of thing, that they're going to be about poisoned enemies generally. So any of these things that are going to spread that mean that you're just providing yourselves more opportunities to take advantage of other gear properties.
Right.
There's some other skills that help combo into that as well. So, yeah.
Okay, so if I was to, let's say, had a sword that had poison.
Right.
I hit a guy, they become poison, we have bursting toxin on it.
Right.
Starts maybe exploding.
Yeah, he might detonate now, yeah.
Right. Okay, so but if I was going to be using proximity trap, that benefit of poison on the sword, it'd still do poison, but it wouldn't also do that bursting toxin.
Right, true.
Okay. So that kind of creates that level of like...
If you want to go the all poison build, then you can really optimize all the skills and the gear and everything around generating as much poison as you can.
Right.
And as soon as you go into a fort that's full of guys who have hates of poison, you'll be like, what was I thinking?
No!
Yeah.
But see all these fly nests above you, and it's like, it'd be cool if I could just not need to shoot arrows at those.
Yeah, and just prime those and let them just drop on everybody as they go.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay. So that's kind of our build moment, which is if I had like a bunch of fire or I guess if I wanted to be the chaos guy, I could run in and just whack a couple guys running around the circle of orcs, and then they all start getting sick, and then they start fighting each other. Or I could be the more sneaky guy, and then be, that's a very cool sort of build differences with it. Awesome. So, in related to this, I fought for you guys to hear about this one. I wanted to talk a little bit about the spiders specifically, because this is a chat favorite, so I wanted to push. If you guys can take a look, actually, Bob, if you would point to your right a little bit, just like that.
My right?
Yeah, you're right. Exactly.
Oh.
That way. Yeah, there we go.
There we go.
If you look right next to his knee, basically, you will see a small icon that looks like a little spider. Little spider there is because you can summon this spider. This is these guys are poisonous guys specifically. So if you were going to be summoning these spiders and they have poison, how would it work with bursting toxin, for example?
Well, yeah, so it's another way guys can get poisoned. So anything you have augmenting poison, or the things you get to do to guys who are poisoned, are obviously going to get triggered off of these spiders, because they're going to skitter around and start, infecting everybody too.
Oh, dude. I like to imagine it as like mobile landmines kind of thing, where it's just like, go my little explosives.
Yeah.
Or you have that same thing where it's maybe you want them to all fight each other, contagion-wise.
Exactly, yeah.
So there's that. And then, on top of that, or you would choose not to have these things, proximity.
Yeah, it's another way to kind of isolate that poison too. If you're wanting to make the optimal sort of mixed bag build where you're ready for any possible challenge, because you never know when a captain's going to just ambush you and tackle you and be like, here I am, and I have a hate of poison, and then you go, no, why do I have the poison sword on right now? That you could have that kind of careful build where maybe you don't have poison on your gear, but you've got these spiders in your back pocket just in case a guy with a vulnerability shows up, and you're like, here, have these.
Pocket spiders. Pocket spiders. That's really funny. Okay, so let's take some questions on that. You guys can ask questions about the poison tendril, the exploding with the poison, the fighting contagion, proximity traps, or spiders, I guess, kind of thing. That was a lot on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, so feel free to start. Pocket spiders confirmed. Yes, Dave. I immediately thought pocket sand was the response. Let's see. Can you poison beasts from Black Gemini?
Yes. In fact, poison is kind of particularly useful against beasts, so... Yeah, you'll see that do a pretty decent chunk. The Graugs are huge and terrifying and very tanky. Yeah. But because the poison really, it skips the thick skin, gets right into the bloodstream. So spiders are actually pretty good against the Graugs. Oh,
that's cool. Yeah. I actually didn't even think. I haven't tried that yet. That's awesome. Let's see. We have a question specifically from Chaim Seiler. Spider size in general?
They're enormous by human normal world spider standards, but they're not they're more in this range. They're kind of beaverish. Beaver, I guess is.
That's horrifying.
Giant, poisonous, eight-legged beavers.
Jeez. This is actually a pretty interesting question. I don't know if this is one we can. So feel free to say no comment on this one. But how do we get these skills or skill points?
So most of the skills you're going to unlock by leveling up, earning skill points. It's leveling up is the primary way. Every time you level up, you get a skill point, get one of these things. Okay. Some of them, though, are kind of associated with side activities, quest lines, stories with other characters. So there's some of them that are just rewards for having gone through the whole arc of an experience and hiding in the game somewhere. Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. Yeah, there you go. I saw Full Metal Viking made a comment that he's just like, spider beavers confirmed, build the dam. Ready to do so. So, let's see. Is there a war chief that can smell poison from Fitigar? That's an interesting question. smelling poison.
Well, there's guys that can smell you. So
That's also terrifying sounding.
yeah.
I mean, that in Shadow of Mordor, wasn't it? The ability to sniff out.
Yeah, we had those sniffers occasionally. There's a bit more sophistication to that this time, but we won't go much into that.
Sophisticatedly smelling you out. Interesting. Cool. We got a question here, which is, can you remote trigger the traps instead of having them set off by movement? That was Mr. Arbiter's Spark.
There's no, like, prime them, go somewhere else, and then push to the detonator or something.
Right. It's not C4.
Yeah, the remote triggering is really just that you shoot them.
Okay.
So it's kind of the default interaction with them that the proximity is a potential upgrade of.
So if you want to remote detonate it, you're shooting it.
Yeah, just don't prox mine it, and instead just wait till the guy's underneath it and trigger it. Yeah.
There you go. Okay. Let's see. If Uruk survives poisoning and comes back, will he be diseased? Skaven scum. And question kind of related to the Nemesis system. We can avoid that one. It just isn't interesting.
I mean, it's a very natural assumption.
It's a natural assumption. So I guess is the way we would respond.
The orc enemies, the captains, they're kind of an important part of the Nemesis system.
Right.
So,
Cool. I like the answer. That's a good one. This is a fun one from Gabriel01. Will Uruks be using spiders?
That is also, I mean, really the same answer. Like, spiders are cool.
Yeah.
Orcs are kind of important. We're trying to mix and match everything we can in a crazy dynamic sandbox to make fun stories happen. So,
Cool. That's
anything's
awesome.
Possible.
Sweet. Let's take one more question. And actually, you see people, Mr. Matthew T. Allen, I wonder who that could be, chanting your name. Quite a one-of-a-kind person. And get back to work. Anyway, so we'll take a final question, and then we'll start the next vote. Let's see. Final question. I think I liked the, can poison work on dragons or drakes?
So they similarly, I mean, all the beasts are kind of in that same family of, like, the poison is a reasonable way to try and hit them. They're obviously not as susceptible to spiders, being that they're flying.
Spider catapults, maybe.
But if you get some poison action going on your bow, that might be a good combo.
That would be a good way to do. Cool. I love that idea of just like tallying with a slingshot.
Yeah.
I don't know. Let's head up the next vote. Get that one going. We have the last two, which is brutalize and agility, I believe, is what it looks like. Yeah. So throw pocket spider at the Drake. Dave, I agree. It's a perfect strategy. From Trazzy Devil, massive devil bomb. I like it. All right. Now we have the votes coming in, so I can't see any more questions anymore. Oh, God. So spiders, anyway. I love the fact that you guys have fallen in love with the spiders, because that's not exactly something I would have predicted. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But it's like, sure, if you guys like spiders, let's chat about them. Have you done any, like, cool spider experiences yet in Shadow of War?
I mean, yes.
Yes? Ooh.
But no.
Okay. Secrets. No war stories yet.
Every day, it's the build's getting cooler and cooler, and these things are happening that I can't wait to get enough of this stuff out there that I can freely just talk about all the weird stuff that happens in our mission review meetings and stuff.
Oh man, yeah, that'll absolutely be nice. We have those opportunities where we're playing the game and you're like, this is such a cool story. I can't share it because there's like one or two things happening, and you're like,
It's because so many of the elements are dynamic and they're interacting in all these weird ways. So stories aren't typically, the best stories aren't one cool thing happened. It's like a bunch of weird dynamics hit each other in the right way, which means that is a higher chance that any one of those is something that we're not allowed to talk about yet.
Yeah. Let's see. Matthew loves your beard.
Thanks, Matt.
So anyway. It looks like agility is the vote of the time. So let's close the poll and let's talk about elven agility specifically.
Right.
Yeah, so this is actually kind of, you'll recognize this one. We have the spiders on this one as well. But this is specifically the one that we're watching is the, make sure I get it perfectly right this time, Spectral Dash. There we go.
Okay, so first of all, the base elven agility skill, last time we had that kind of, you hop over, do a little vault over a rock or a pot or a barrel or something, and you get the burst on the other side if you hit the A button at the right time. So baseline elven agility we've also extended to climbing And so you see that happening in the video a little bit too, I think. But
right.
you know, tap it as you're climbing, and you can really shoot up buildings, and climbing just becomes so much faster and more fluid, and kind of vault over the top and, you know, surprise some guys on the other side.
That's awesome.
So that's the kind of core skill, and then you got the upgrades of. So there's a spectral dash, which is holding the stealth button. You're still sneaking around, but you can do that quick wraith flash up. You know, blink up to right behind a guy and get a stealth kill in. So. There's a few different ways you typically will pull that off. There's, you know, a group of guys who are going to spot you with the target you're actually after, that guy who's vulnerable to stealth or whatever.
Right.
And you don't want to get spotted on your way, so you get up close enough to dash forward and get him before they all notice and alert him.
Oh, gotcha.
Or there's the kind of, I'm trying to just sneak through an area. There's a big gap in the walls where I know guys will see me, but I can now just dash past that gap and skip the visibility there.
Right.
So there's some different ways to use that. The other kind of more tricky, little bit more advanced maneuver with that is the fact that, you know, in combat, you can still pull it off while you're in combat if you go into crouch and tap A, right?
Right.
So in combat, normally if you're tapping A, you're going to like vault over guys who are in the way and dodge roll around, and there's different properties that go into that. You can keep this one on, use it at the right times if you get really good at kind of toggling that crouch, and use this to sort of get out of dodge without actually necessarily triggering the jump over. Especially useful when there's a guy who won't let you jump over, who will catch you and have that kind of rejection moment.
Oh, so like the vault breakers from Shadow of Mordor.
Exactly.
So it's, you try to do that doesn't work.
So if that guy's pinning you in the corner and you can't get over him, then you can potentially crouch and spectral dash past him.
Ooh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So we'd mentioned this a little bit earlier too. If I was in a position where I had like an emptiness that I had to cross with Urix looking this way, and I needed to go from one wall to another piece of cover, would the spectral dash have me be seen as I'm making that jump?
They don't see anything that happens. You basically, as far as they're concerned, you disappeared, you reappeared over here. So
mini teleport kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like in the middle of a fight, you can kind of blink around as you described it, or if you needed to be hidden, you could like cross openings that don't let you do so. You can just
blink past. Yep.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Well, so that's one of the augments, and that's one what we saw in the actual video. One of the other ones, and this one I think is pretty interesting because this is the one I prefer to play with.
Okay.
Silent Runner.
Right. So that's a little more straightforward. You don't have to do any additional button presses, so it make a little less complexity on the controller.
Right.
But more just broad utility of that's just sprint around. Don't worry about stealth, and people won't be hearing you. So normally if you're running past guys behind them, you got to be in stealth or they can hear those footsteps and they'll turn around and spot you.
Right.
So this kind of lets you just ignore that, just keep sprinting, and they won't hear you even if you run kind of right behind them. So.
Oh, that's awesome. I kind of like to imagine this idea as like the long distance sneak kind of thing, where if like you were setting up proximity traps all around using our proximity ability, then you would want to have something that allowed you to run quietly and quickly rather than having to do this sort of like shorter range but blinking style ability.
Right.
Oh, that's fun.
Well, and the other thing is the spectral dash, since it's one of those Celebrimbor super slow-mo moves from the orc's perspective, that means it's also costing a little bit of focus. So it's another way to manage the focus meter. If you get too many things consuming focus, you'll start to find yourself out of it. Like if you're spectral dashing a ton, and then you try and get into a stealth chain, you'll only be able to do one, or maybe you don't have enough to even do one because you just spent it all on those dashes.
You dash up to some guy and you hit him and
yeah, exactly.
Oh man, that'd be a terrible one. So okay, so you can dash around with that. You can do the silent running as a sort of a way to cover long distances. Now you mentioned that you didn't need to stealth, but if you were going to run up and do a stealth hit, you'd still
go into that mode to get the button prompt to finish him off.
Right. So you almost have to you have to wait till the end to do that button press versus in this.
Yeah, if you want to just keep sprinting, then you just wait until the moment where you really need the stealth options to enter stealth. Yeah.
Gotcha. And then cool. All right. So now there's a question actually from Patrick Patrol that just popped up, which was, so how often can you dash? Does it use more focus over time as you're dashing? And is there a forced time between the dashing?
So there's if we're just talking about the spectral dash, obviously combat dodging is just what happens when you tap A. There's no cost to that inherently, unless you upgrade it in certain ways. But the spectral dashing does cost a little bit of focus, so the number of times you can dash, how often you can dash, it's really, again, it's the measure of how much have you invested in pumping up your max focus. So, you can dash quite a few times before you're really depleted and you have to wait for it to recharge.
Right.
In terms of the time between dashes, it's pretty similar timing to a dodge roll. It's faster immediately, and then you kind of settle on the other end, and then you can keep moving.
Oh, okay.
So.
Oh, that's awesome. Sweet. So with that, let's. I started a question without saying we're going to start doing a question, but let's answer some questions related to the elven agility. That includes the kind of as Deplotter once put it, the rhythm movement style, being able to jump over things, or the spectral dash, as well as the silent running. Let's see. So, and once again, I see a couple questions popping up, which is, let's focus on specifically this segment, because this is what we can kind of describe and discuss with this. Let's see. Will Elven Swiftness and Silent Runner be available on mounts? Skavens come. It's an interesting question.
No. So while you're mounted, mounted on Graugs, they're just not that sneaky.
Is it? I mean, large slippers, maybe? Graug slippers?
The Caragors do have some stealth options, but no, the Celebrimbor dash, you would just dash right off him and fall in the air. So
that would actually be really funny.
Yeah, you don't do that on the mounts. You just got to sneak up and shoot people's necks off.
Black Gemini has a question. Can you dash through obstacles?
So you're not going to dash through walls or like a big physical barrier.
I guess you know how you would vault over like a grog barrel or something. Can you go through that grog barrel?
That's a good question, actually. There's probably some edges of that where some of those things that we normally would let you just hop over may work like that, but I'm not sure. I have to check, actually.
That's actually a really interesting one. We're curious about it. Let's see. Can you give temporary elven swiftness to your troops? So I'm assuming you mean to like your other orcs. So is this something that's just Talion, or can he share?
This is a totally Talion focused thing.
Just Talion Celebrimbor. Let's see. Looking for more questions as we go through. Someone was asking, can we get all unlocks in the game? So Descender787, I think, is referring to, can you unlock all the augments as well, not necessarily selecting them?
Yeah, you can unlock everything. You just only get one of those upgrades active at a time on each skill.
So if you unlocked the entire tree and every single augment on every single one, you would have a complete leveled up character, but your build would still be balanced based upon whatever augments you choose.
Right.
Okay, there we go. Let's see. Does this possibly let you have unlimited stamina to run? From Jake B-Man 15.
So there's the normal sprinting that you did in the last game.
Right.
There's no cost to that. The tap the A when you land and have that speed burst. It lasts for a fixed amount of time.
Right.
And then it fades off, and you got to find another way to land and
another jump.
Yeah, another jump to land and get another speed burst. But those moves don't cost any focus. Those are just timing your movement.
Right.
We have added as kind of a baseline movement thing to the game the ability to spend a little focus, click the stick, and get a little speed burst.
Right.
Very much like the timed landing thing that does cost focus.
Right.
But the Elven Agility is kind of, if you're good about it, you never really even need to use that mode, because you can find things to vault and hurdle and land and keep your chains going all the time.
Right. Oh, okay. So it's that level of if I'm in a perfectly flat land, I can still have my boosts if needed. And if I'm in an environment where there's plenty of things to hop over, I can then use that. Cool. Legit. All right. Let's see if let's take one more question. And we'll take from what looks like Jewis 3003. Hard to say your name, love. It's how often can you change the skill upgrade? And let's start the next votes too after the. Oh, there's nothing else to vote. That's right. We're going to do agility. Go ahead and just put it up for the sake of so people can look at the options that we have. But yeah, let's go ahead and finish the.
So how often can you change the skill upgrades?
Yeah.
It's basically pause the game, go into the skill menu, respec how you want.
Right. So it's not on the fly, but it's something where it's you can do it relatively with ease.
Yeah, you can do it whenever you need to. I think for us it's kind of important because of how not only are the orcs all different with their different strengths and weaknesses,
right?
But the fact that they're so unpredictable means that I can choose to hunt this guy, spec myself out to hunt him, but even on the way there, I could just get ambushed and tackled by somebody who's going to have a totally different set of strengths and weaknesses. So we didn't want to cut off the sort of strategic fun of looking at that guy, understanding his gameplay, and going in and speccing yourself out to fight him. So it's pretty much whenever you want, go ahead and shuffle around your skills.
Ooh, that's awesome. Okay, so for an example, if I was to, like, the thought process is it's not necessarily designed for, like, someone to jump in the air and do that slow-mo air bow thing, and then have that opportunity of, like, proximity trap that, and then turn, and then shoot a barrel, and then it becomes poison contagion or something, because they pause switched real quick.
Right.
Would that actually stay, though? I'm kind of curious. Now I'm actually wondering that question for myself. If you
That's a good question.
Proximity
That's a good question. I should write something down and then go test that, actually.
That's actually, we might need to double check that one. Anyway, so with that, we actually have our final thing right now. Not really much of a vote, because it's we're going to talk about Brutalize, the love one, which actually, this is something I'm entertained by, especially because in this particular one, we actually have a new mechanic that we haven't really had a chance to talk about. But before we jump you into that, let's talk about Brutalize. What was Brutalize?
Yeah, so base skill is sort of that classic thing we had last time of you get up behind the guy, and instead of doing the quiet, sneaky, hand over the mouth, slit the throat, lay him down, now you do the like stab. Hey everybody, I'm here. And so that, by default, it makes a couple guys freak out and just run away immediately. And then you also have the fact that it's building up your hit counter to start a fight. It's the fight starter stealth kill. When you're ready to exit stealth and start swinging your sword, this is probably the way you want to do it.
Right.
So you freak out a couple guys, make the fight a little easier out of the gate, but also build up the hit counter and build up your might bar, which is the new thing here.
Before we jump on that one, though, we technically have to hit the augment Terrorize first.
Okay, so Terrorize is really just focusing on the fear side of that ability. So by default, you're going to see one or two guys freak out and run away when you do a Brutalize. Terrorize is going to just amp it up so that it's even scarier. More guys are going to just freak out and run away.
Okay. There you go. So that's kind of the mindset of if someone's scared of brutality, or if you have a large group and you're like, I only want to deal with one of them, crazy Terrorize, dealt with that one, build up your hit counter, that kind of thing. Cool. And now, Unyielding Ferocity.
Yeah, so this one is the upgrade that focuses on the hit counter and might building side. So every stab in that Brutalize is going to bump up your hit counter, and it's going to give you some might. And the might bar is the way we're gating those executions this time. Those the moves where you press two buttons, you do an instant, chop the guy's head off, where he totally never comes back from that.
Like hitting the ground or whatever.
Exactly, yeah. So that's what the might is actually used for. Rather than being driven entirely off the hit counter this time, there's just a clear resource. You're filling that bar. When it's full, you can do it. So you don't have to do any more of the math of like every 8 on the hit counter, and then did I spend it? But I waited till 10 to spend it, so now it's 18 instead of 16. And so now it's just much more clear. It's on the might bar, and there's other kind of skills and augments and upgrades that go into that little economy now too. But the hit counter is still relevant in different ways. So it still is driving up your damage that you're doing in combat. It's making you more likely to knock guys down with every hit. And then, of course, there's going to be fun combos with gear properties that play into that the hit counter can be valuable for. So if you're still like a combat aficionado who's really into making sure that you never get hit and you keep that streak going, that'll still be really beneficial, even though the executions aren't driven off of that anymore.
Okay. So it's just actually something that I think is interesting to note. If I was to fill up my might meter, does that decrease when I leave combat?
So there's different augments to...
Depends.
Yeah, there's different ways to spec that out too. So that's just another thing you'll be able to customize a bit.
Cool. There you go. So it's the idea basically is, so for these executions now, it's not connected immediately to the hit
just
count.
The hit counter, yeah.
It also has the ability for you to just have, like, potentially to save it when you're out of combat, so you could start a fight with an execution or something even.
Right.
Cool. There you go. So let's start going with questions with that. Actually, someone was asking, can you summon a Drake? And because you're looking at the icon that we have on the screen right to our rights again. And actually, the plotter mentioned that last stream. Yeah, that is an okay one. You can do that. It's as he put it, slower cooled or longer
cooldown. Longer cooldown. It's a very it's a skill that's much deeper in the game. So you're not going to be arriving in Mordor this time and then going, which should I do? Start to run a little faster or call in a Drake? That won't be an early choice you make, but it'll get there.
It's like, I love that idea. It's like, elven agility or summon fire from gods from the sky. Yeah. So, let's see. I saw a question with, can you brutalize or terrorize beasts? So not just, this is from Skaven Scum.
No, so there's the upgrade that we talked about that lets you stealth kill beasts at all. But no, we don't have additional variants of stealth killing them. That's kind of the one upgrade that lets you pull off a normal stealth kill.
Okay, so no like brutalize a Caragor and then all the Caragors run away.
No, no.
Gotcha. All right, let's see. Looking, Carbaluk. Can you brutalize an Overlord?
Well, you can certainly try.
You could. So I guess, if you were sneaky, maybe.
Yeah. So it's the Overlords. You watched the gameplay announce video where we went through the whole fort assault and we came into his keep and
see us coming.
Yeah, you're kind of walking into his home here and approaching him directly on the throne. So it's theoretically possible if you're tricky enough. There are ways that you could get to that point of breaking his attention, getting out of the way, letting him lose you, and then sneaking back up and pulling one off. But you're also then relying on him actually being vulnerable to that, or at least not immune to it. And he's going to be a pretty high-level guy, so you never know.
It's true. I remember reading or having a discussion before when people were asking if you could just dominate an Overlord. So potentially, if you dominated an Overlord, because as long as you're high enough level, you can.
Right.
If you did that, then you put him out in the world, and then you snuck up and
easily.
There you go.
Totally.
But in the actual Overlord fight...
I mean, to put it another way, Overlords are just really powerful captains.
Right.
And the hierarchy can shift. So, a guy who was once an Overlord can definitely be another captain or war chief out in the world somewhere. So
there you go. Cool. Let's see. So I've seen more questions from people, which are once again off subject, and we're going to stick to the subject a little bit. Then we'll break it up in kind of the open one. Specifically, I saw a question from Z Money. Just out of question, out of segment. Those words again, mixing up my words kind of situation. Let's see. Can you scare Overlords with Terrify? Gotcha. 12.
So the captains will be a lot less likely to just freak out and run if you stab another orc. They have a little bit higher base morale.
Right.
But really it's about the stealth vulnerability there. The captains are gonna keep it together in a fight like that. His buddies, his gang, whoever's surrounding helping out might freak out and leave him alone. But if there's other captains around, they're probably gonna hold their own and keep fighting you.
All right. Okay. There you go. Let's see. I'm going to do one more specific question to this segment, and then let's break it out a little bit, and then we'll do a couple of those questions and then announcements, and that's pretty much kind of heading towards the end of the stream. So I see one, which is when we brutalize, can we also Wraith brutalize? So I guess that one's a bit of it depends on what move combo.
Right, so the Deadly Spectre can be upgraded to do a brutalize when the guy comes near it. That's one of the possible upgrades to set on that. But the chain, once you're getting into the multiple chains and the Celebrimbor is coming out and hitting more guys, that one's going to always be a normal stealth kill.
Yeah. There you go. Then I saw one from, I guess, M. Cower looked like what it was, but can you brutalize an Olag High?
That is also a good question. So the Olags are stronger, tougher. They are less likely to just go down with one big stab, but there's a lot of combos that are possible there. So they're likely to reject you initially and not be killed by it right away. But you can weaken guys and go at them and take them out. So
that's awesome. Cool. Let's see. So as we go with that, I think that we can open up a little bit more to some more general questions now, and we'll take 4 or 5 to go. And then
so one I've seen coming up a bunch in all the other categories that we can just answer real quick.
Yeah.
Can Aslar become an Overlord if he survived? Totally. Yeah.
Totally. There you go.
Yeah.
I've run into other orcs with the name Aslar, and it's interesting to actually hear the name spoken. Because I was just like, it's not Aslar, it's Aslar. And I was like, oh my goodness, it's the actual pronunciation of this guy. Let's see. I got one real quick from Gabram01, which is, will there be normal soldier Olags? Yeah. Yeah, that'd be like the grunt Olag type thing.
Non-captain guys, yeah.
Yeah, they're out there. Let's see.
I mean, of course, if they kill you, then they'll become a captain.
They become a captain. That's how that happens.
Yeah.
There you go. I'm going to actually hit a couple of these. Skaven Scum, rideable Olag High. It's like, what do you mean like a mount? Like, what's these hilarious things?
I'm not gonna say no though.
Yeah, we're not gonna say no. Let's see. We're popping like Captain's vulnerable to poison from Dragon Barn 007. Yeah, that's a thing. You can be enraged by poison.
Yeah, invulnerable, vulnerable. Yeah.
Yeah, so it doesn't do anything.
Have a fear of it.
See a poison guy, run away from it. Yeah. Let's see.
Oh man, that was one of my favorite recent stories from a mission review.
Yeah.
It's having a guy drawing out a war chief, doing the mission that draws the guy out, right? And then having him trigger his fear, right? And I run up to him. He's doing his showdown. He comes out. He's announcing himself. He's looking for me. As he finishes, his fear gets triggered as I'm getting control back. So I run up, and as soon as I get there, his bodyguard is just beating him to death. And I'm like, what's going on here? It zooms in. The war chief was killed by the faithful. Like, the faithful bodyguard just murdered his boss. And I zoomed into that guy, and he had, of course, enraged by cowards. So his boss freaked out. He got upset, and that was it.
So these are actually some almost like new personality things in a way, because we have the boss freaks out because he's scared of poison. He had a faithful guard who gets enraged by cowards, and so his response to seeing this coward next to him was to take him out.
That's it. I'm not following this guy anymore. Boom.
Wow. Like, how is that for hilarious kind of? We got some people who are just like, wow, that's ridiculous. Actually, we got another question from Yopus Steak. Name, how many executions can we store? So it's like in the case of the might bar kind of thing?
Yeah, so one full might bar is one execution. It'll consume it. There are upgrades in another skill tree area that we haven't gone into detail on that will augment and change the nature of that interaction. So we'll probably talk more about that at some point.
That's awesome. There you go. Let's see. So I've actually, Sergeant Ryder, I believe you've actually asked this question before because I've answered it a couple times on stream, but I want to make sure you guys understand. Will your Uriks acknowledge your friendship to them? Yeah, they can absolutely be like, you're my friend or connected to me.
Yeah.
So,
they can do all kinds of nice things for you.
Yeah. I mean, actually, if we take a reference to Thrak, it's just like, I once fought for you. He's referencing he was once a friend.
Right. Now he's a bit of a dick, but yeah.
a little bit.
But later in that gameplay announce, you also see your buddy, helping out, taking that shot where you're about to die, but he shows up and is like, hey, I'm not going to let you go down like that. That's a nice moment of friendship.
Totally. That's a fantastic bit. So, let's see. I see a question, which is, we're not talking about characters right now, Elvildir, but I like the joke. We've some of these people I've chatted to off of in forums and in Twitter and a variety of other places, and there is a lot of interest in dwarves to ask. And we're not talking about characters right now, but it is probably just underneath spiders, and then Aslar, spiders, and then dwarves are kind of the chat scale of what's most fun. Let's see. Oh, here's an interesting one from Echo 9 Games. Can a war chief dethrone a friendly overlord and take over the fortress?
A friendly overlord?
Friendly overlord.
That is not likely to happen.
Not likely.
It is possible for, I believe, for an enemy war chief to get a little uppity and try and take over the fort.
Right.
But once it's yours, you own it.
More friendly in there.
Yeah, you can keep a little tighter control over their impulses. I mean, not complete control.
Right.
But a little tighter.
A little tighter. Okay, I like it. Oh. Let's see. Let's do 2 more questions, and then I got some stuff that we should be chatting about. Let's see.
I think I've seen this one pop up a bunch since I mentioned the class, the Savages.
Yes. I
just want to clarify real quick so nobody gets too excited that someone actually answered it in the chat stream as well, but that's just a terminology change from last time. Last game they were called Berserkers, the dual-wielding axe guys that you can't hit front on, you have to stun them.
Right.
Those guys, and this time they're called Savages because little terminology switch, we needed the word Berserker for something else that we'll go into later.
There you go. If you guys remember from a stream we did a couple weeks ago where we actually created a Berserker nemesis in Shadow of Mordor. That's now what Savages.
That class, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Let's see. I guess maybe not final question, but almost to do it. I love the Mammoth King has been asking this question a bunch, which was, can we do mass branding assuming willing applicants? Which I love the willing applicants part of that.
I'm not entirely sure what that means, but
I think it's a piece of paper that you have to write. They sign up online.
They fill out the mass branding application.
Right.
Get in line. You can brand everybody in the world.
Right.
And they're usually not that willing, but you kind of do it anyway.
Right. There you go.
That's kind of Italian's thing.
Italian's thing, yeah.
I guess maybe it's more Celebrimbor's thing.
Celebrimbor's thing? I don't know. They're kind of together.
Yeah.
I mean, they're certainly close. So, Nico746, are there going to be power struggles between friendly Uruks? Which we've actually mentioned that a little bit.
I mean, well, you're their boss, so you can kind of make it happen if you want.
I love that idea. It's just like, I'm pitting you against Steve. It's like, fine. All right, so let's do
Somebody
one more.
will come out stronger.
Someone will come out strong, yeah. Let's do one more, and then after we have that one more, I got some stuff to chat about, too. Let's see. This is an interesting one. I've actually seen this one a couple times, too, which is, what happens if you die during an attack on the fortress? Can you still win that fortress attack?
Yeah, so the nice thing about this big open dynamic sandbox is we can put a big, crazy goal like that's really overwhelming if you were to just walk right up to it.
Right.
And we're kind of into people dying in the game, so we'll let you just go up and give it a shot.
Where do you die?
Die immediately. I mean, dying in our game is just like start some stories with some orcs, you know?
Right.
So what'll happen, like if you bring a bunch of guys in and you just walk up and get murdered right at the first capture point,
right.
You're going to see time move forward and things will shift around appropriately. Some of the guys you brought in might have been killed. Some of them might be captured and you have new rescue missions to go after them or that kind of thing.
Right.
And you'll resurrect and everybody involved will level up appropriately, or anybody you killed along the way will still be dead. So you might have made it halfway to victory, and at least the next time you go at it, you still got that progress.
Okay.
So it's in that way, it's almost like more natural built-in checkpoint of the work you did is done, but of course things move forward as well. So new challenges might emerge. The guy that you almost killed that had that mortal vulnerability to poison might have actually grown out of that by the time you come back. So
they've grown up.
All kinds of
things.
things.
Their fear.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, so you can actually lose part of it, but it's not like a reset. It's that it remembers everything that happened during that time. So it's almost like a strategic retreat. Like, we've taken out this much, now let's back off, wait for the respawn of Talion, and then come back again. That's cool. So with that, those are our questions that we have for today to finish up. I had two things I wanted to jump onto specifically. One was that I had a question in the forums and on Twitter specifically was, are we going to be collecting fan art and sharing it around? And the answer is yes, we will. There will be a specific stream for that, or a specific area in the forums or something where we're going to just gather it. So specifically to Reaper, thank you for submitting some. I actually shared it with the team. That was he drew us a metal album cover, music metal album cover, and it was just like he had all the songs in there, and it was just like, this is perfect. We got it. And but that's something where we'll share in forums or on a different stream.
And those things are also just make everybody's day here too. We pass it around and people love that stuff around the office. So
yes, absolutely. And so there was that. And then the final one is actually, let's talking more about the community stuff. If you guys remember that we have forums, there was a question that said, are you guys checking out the forums? I'm totally hanging out in the forums from community.wbgames.com. That's where we have forums. I hang out there and I write in there. I mean, I'm not going to be answering every single thing in kind of that style, but we're there. So if you want to chat with me, if you want to chat with Andy, it's please jump in there, have conversations with us. I'm also checking out online at the subreddit for Shadow of Mordor as well as Shadow of War. And we read Twitter stuff. So we're in all these lovely places. Come and hang out. Always a joy to see you do that. And final one is people were asking about a Discord. It's getting pretty close to being complete. Not 100% that it's going to happen, but we made a bunch of progress with it. So anyway, that's pretty much. Do you have anything you want to finish with? No?
Good.
No, we're good. It was lovely to see everybody today. So have a wonderful weekend. It was a joy. We'll see you again next week at Friday, 2 p.m. And with that, y'all are wonderful. Check out the IGN stuff that went live today, actually. The Drake one. Yeah, that just went live. Yeah. Check that one out, too. Definitely, probably, maybe talking about it next week. And with that, see you later, good people.
Bye.